I've experienced sleep paralysis since I was probably 7 or 8. When it first happened, I called it peanut butter mouth because, I'll wake up randomly at night and, I couldn't talk. And I've seen like shrouded figures and things of that nature. And my mom, she's really religious and she would always tell me to, say the name of Jesus and that would end. And I would experience sleep paralysis through the course of my life. And it will still be the same experience, very frightening, very scary. And I remember in 2020, my dad, he passed away. And it was very difficult, but I just wasn't able to sleep. And I would have sleep paralysis. And I remember one night, I was just, I thought, like, why don't I just let this thing happen and see what happens? So sleep paralysis happens. And for me, when I experience mine, I go through like a portal, or like a purple portal. When I go through it, when I see my dad, I can't hear him. We see each other and we have that interaction basically, and then he kind of goes away. And it was interesting for me because the only thing I've seen about sleep paralysis is very, very scary. So it got me curious to really look into it, and I didn't find much. And that's when I found Sheila's page, and it gave it more life, a different side to it. So I would experience sleep paralysis thereafter after my dad passed, but it was different. So usually people are, you're laying on your back or your stomach. It didn't matter what position I laid in, it would just happen. And usually you would wake up to it. I remember there were some nights I would go to sleep and sleep paralysis would happen. But as it progressed, I let it just kind of occur. And I remember one night it happened and I could talk. And it was kind of weird. I was talking, I could move my mouth. And I was like, okay. And it happened again, and I could like move my upper torso, my arms. I was like, all right. And then it happened again, I could move my legs. Another time, I had sleep paralysis. I was able to stand up. So if I'm supposed to be paralyzed, like what am I supposed to call this? So the last time I really remember having sleep paralysis, it it occurred, and I got taken through a portal, and I was like moving around and talking, and I saw something. It was like a dark room, and it was like a small window. And there was a little bit of light that I could see through, and it looked like somebody or something like asking for help. I didn't know what it was. I couldn't really hear anything. And then I went back through the portal and got up. But it's just gotten me curious. I found that like sleep paralysis could be our ancestors really wanting to get in contact with us, but I kind of thought of it as something from a different dimension coming to this dimension. You don't know like what it'll manifest as, and then on top of that, our consciousness plays a big role in how it plays out. So I told people like my family and friends about sleep paralysis. I tell them like, maybe this time you let it play out. People think I'm crazy, and I don't disregard like the experience being scary at all, but I've seen a different side of it, and I think there's very much more to it. And there was a time in 2020 where I did psychedelics, and I remember going through a lot of sleep paralysis. And one night, it happened, and I was in space, and I was like free falling through space, like space and time. And then I remember seeing this giant portal. It was like a gate, and it burst open through there's light in it, and I fell through it and I woke up. But since that day, I feel very comfortable in in the darkness. To me, the darkness isn't more so evil, it's more so what is hidden. So I'm comfortable with the things being revealed. But it's it's been a process. I haven't had as much sleep paralysis this year, but it makes me feel like I'm on the path to where I need to be going to. It's just very intimidating. You don't know what's gonna happen, and just randomly something could like a shrouded figure could pop up. I know people had like the old hag, on their stomachs, but anything could happen. You don't know what's gonna happen next. It's just you can't talk. Your last thing you could do is like scream and call for help, and like that's being taken away from you. So I know like a lot of people have dealt with that, but I learned that it's hereditary. So my mom deals with it, and I believe it's on her side of the family. My sister does too, and they both had experiences the same way where they're seeing things and can't really identify what it is or what it means. Um, it's just one of those things that it's hard to explain unless you really experienced it. But I will say it's just very dark. But there's no way to really call for help. There's no peace there unless you wake up. By the time I started experiencing portals, it wasn't scary anymore. It felt familiar. It felt like very peaceful. It was basically like a telephone, you know, to a different dimension with different beings there. So I willingly went through it. I wasn't able to like bring it up whenever I wanted to, but I did notice there would be nights when sleep paralysis would like start, and I would be like, no, and I would stop it. So I realized that I don't know if I can control it, but I can be on the same frequency as this thing. Because I'm like, oh, somebody has a message for me. I'm like, not tonight. I can't really. I'm not in the mood. I'm too tired to really deal with that right now. But the portal, it was interesting. I feel like my consciousness was like expanded. I can really comprehend and really see things beyond what's really here in like the third dimension. I'm aware of what's going on, but I'm aware of like other things taking place that influence things that happen in this dimension. I don't know if I brought something back, but I I came back very different. Family and friends say I've changed. It's a lot of growth, but it's a lot of understanding. I mean, I could say I'm a different person because of it, and which is a good thing. But it made me like appreciate like being outside, being around people. I guess I was raised in a Christian household. My family's Nigerian, so it's very strict in that life. Very strict at home, very strict religiously. So I was very like scared to like go outside of my house, and I feel so free now, and I think it's very shocking for people to see me like free and alive, happy and well. And I just know things are going to work out. This has been a very great year for me. Just I feel very in tune with spirit. I feel very aligned with my ancestors. I think a lot of times when we have generational curses in our family, our ancestors call on the next generation to help break whatever that may be. I think all of us are called, but my thing is, I think a few of us answer because the way that they dial in might be something like sleep paralysis, a very intense spiritual experience, and a lot of us say no, and I think that's in our own right. But if you do answer, you do like go through the portal. You don't know what's on the other side, but it could be worse, but it could also be better too. I've tried to explain this, but it just kind of people can't comprehend it because of what I'm talking about. But to me, if you've lived a life where your family, maybe your family's like descendant of slaves, or like my family, they stayed in Africa, but they were colonized too. So for generations, you keep repeating the same thing. Personally, I'll be upset. So me trying to reach you is very aggressive. Like, hey, listen now. So I'm gonna stop you from moving, talking. You're gonna listen to this right now. I think a lot of times it comes in that package. We think our ancestors are gonna come in here. Oh, my child, just go this way. Sometimes it's very blunt. It's very aggressive because you have the privilege of living in this time. We need your help to stop this curse of finances or bad health, whatever it is. So I think it's an honor. It's a big honor. I ask my ancestors for guidance and help all the time, and what I really want to do is go back to my parents' villages in Nigeria and see where how far spirituality could go. I want to really build like a spiritual center there. It's tough because in Africa it's Christianity or whatever religion, but it's like a cult. If I'm being honest, I have no problem with people being religious. I think it's a great thing, but when it runs your life and you don't want to go to the doctor because this this religion taught you that, God will heal you, so the doctor doesn't know what they're talking about. I don't, I can't do that. I've seen a lot of my family has died just because, God didn't heal them. But to me, God comes in different forms. God is an idea. God is that, that medicine man, that medicine woman, whomever. And people don't think about it like that. It's not just like somebody waves something and you're healed. You have to go to a place to get that healing. You have to actually believe it and want it for yourself. So I want to, spread different ideas. I had the privilege of being in America with a lot of African Americans who are descendants from slaves, and to me, African Americans have more of an African connection than actual Africans in Africa. It's a different mentality, and it kind of just shows from being taken away from your home, and maybe it's the language all you have. You keep it. You make sure that you pass it down to your kids, opposed to, oh, we're from Africa, it's still there, but it's very different. I think a lot of times Africans were slowly boiled into being colonized. It's like you still live here. The food's still the same. We're just gonna change a few things here, remove this thing here. But I learned from being here and befriending a lot of African Americans that it's great to have my African pride, and it's great to like revive that in myself and in my people. That's my goal. That's as far as I see it going, to really revive the nation. Africa is a diamond, so I want to turn it back into that. Yeah, I think it's one of those things where, for me, with supernatural stuff, I never hear anything. I'm allowed to see. I know some people can hear things, or some people are allowed to just really speak about things they don't know about. But I'm usually able to see things. There's never been like a lot of like audio and these type of things that happen to me. So I got to see my dad. It was interesting. And then he just kind of floated away. I knew he was like gone at this point. And so my dad passed here, and we like shipped his body back to Nigeria so he can be buried in his village. And I remember having a dream, and he was there. He told me that he made it back, and stuff like that. So it's a lot of things that I was given the privilege to see, but I had to pay attention. I think that's the main thing. A lot of us, kind of look, but turn around like I think something's behind me, but we ignore it. We can't ignore it anymore. Like the world is changing, the world is evolving, the world has shifted a lot, and we have to shift with it. Stuff like this is only gonna get stronger, but we have to get comfortable with things like this. I told my mom like it's really a great thing that somebody in your lineage wants to talk to you, and like Cyrus was saying, like you not having that connection, not having that identity, like you'll look around like who am I? And if you have that privilege, I don't take it for granted. Like I know where my parents are from. I've seen like my parents' houses and stuff, been to different villages, and I'm getting more in tune with that side of myself. So I don't take it for granted. So it's a privilege to be in the room of your people. It makes them smile. And it's like I've had less sleep paralysis this year, and that lets me know like I'm going towards the right path. So I'm just gonna keep going that way.